Today I wanted to share a video about alcohol, about sobriety, and about what happens when you drink and then you stop drinking for 5 years and then you drink again, which is exactly what I did. As a very big caveat, I was very reluctant to do this video for a long time because I didn't want anyone to watch this who was struggling with addiction, with alcoholism, with sobriety, to think, oh, it's okay because if I give up alcohol, then it's fine. I can start drinking again if I do this and do that. This is not this video. This is not what I'm doing here. This is very much a very big personal reflection of what happened when I gave up alcohol and when I started drinking again. And this is what I want to share for anyone who has had an interesting relationship with alcohol. And I know most of us do. And so this video, there's no judgment. There's no shame and there's no blame on myself or anyone else. This is what this work is all about. And if you don't know who I am, my name's Antonia and I love to help people through soul contract readings and deep emotional healing to understand themselves more deeply and have greater self-awareness behind what is driving their life forward so they can have more compassion and more confidence in who they are and ultimately feel more at home in who they are, because that is the whole point of being here, is to feel at home with ourselves. This is my story. I drank from a very early age. I think most of us did in the UK. I'm 36 now, so probably by the time I was 14, 15, I was drinking. Parties, boys, all of that, blah, 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 blah. And then what happened? I went to school and then I went to university, and the university culture, drinking culture is huge. I mean, absolutely huge. And then you go to London and you get a job and everyone goes out every weekend. I went and did some things abroad. And again, the way you get to know people is you party through alcohol. But as I approached 27, some things started to change. I studied kinesiology. I had a great understanding of health and well-being and a holistic sense of we're not just mind and matter, but we're souls. And, you know, there's a lot more going on emotionally under the surface. And so some things started to fall into place. Now, I think at that time, my relationship with alcohol was really not very healthy. I used it as a crutch, as we often do in social situations. I was a very thirsty drinker as well, and I had a huge emotional attachment to alcohol. So I would think of a sunny day and think, oh, a cold glass of rosé, a wedding, oh, a glass of champagne, a wintry Sunday, oh, a glass of red wine. There was a big romanticism with alcohol, and I think a lot of us have that. You know, we also grow up with seeing alcohol all the time in films and on TV, and people being social and sophisticated and having cocktails, and look at them leading this life. And it's so subliminal, the programming here. It's so deeply impacting our subconscious. And if you grew up with it, watching TV films, then it's going to have had an impact, even when we think it's not. So I grew up in that culture. I was exposed to that culture, and it was a very usual thing for people my age. But my relationship, as I said, was not great. You know, I would drink without being conscious of how much, to the extent where I wouldn't really remember anything, or I would make very foolish decisions, as we all have done. And I think the crux came, I went to a wedding, and I had a really, really great time. As in, I ended up at 2 o'clock in the morning crying, trying to find my accommodation, no shoes, no jacket, you know, an absolute car crash, I would say. And I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol, but I was very sensitive to it because I am a very sensitive person. And I wasn't quite aware. There was just a lack of self-awareness of how it was impacting me. And that's the key thing in this whole video, that if anyone watching this, I want you to take that away. How self-aware are you with your relationship with alcohol or with anything else? It could be food, it could be shopping, it could be your relationships. You know, it's all about how aware are we of what's really going on? What's the real story behind this? So I did this challenge. I think I was 28 of 100 days no alcohol, and I nearly made it. I think I got to like day 92, and I was like, "Wow, who cares? I'm gonna have a drink." But the wedding was the low point for me. And so I did a detox at Christmas. I mean, the worst time to do one, but it was good. I needed it. And I decided, oh, I'm just going to carry on not drinking and see what happens. And then it was March 2020. We know what that special time of year was. That was the lockdown, the COVID schmovid. And if you do not know my views about COVID, then I do have some articles on my blog because, anyway, we'll move past that. And it could have been a really challenging time for me. I moved back with my parents. I lost my job. I couldn't be a kinesiologist. I broke up from a relationship. It was deep grief, deep anger, big spiritual awakening, big life-changing thing happened to me as it did to many people at that time. And I didn't drink. It just wasn't going to happen for me. And so that was 5 years. I spent 5 years of not drinking, going to weddings sober, meeting people sober. I moved, I did this, I did that, I retrained, I did tons of cool things. I fell in love sober, you know. And then one day, it was Christmas Day, and it'd been building up for a while. It was last Christmas, 2024. I thought, I want to have a drink. Actually, I want to have a drink now. And it's almost like I had come out of this punitive energy that I'd been in of how shameful it was that I hadn't had a good relationship with alcohol. Had been so judgmental of myself. And now this is a really important thing. I had a spiritual superiority of, look at me, I don't drink, I must be better than you. And I'll be honest, that's what I felt, you know. A lot of people do actually in different circles. You know, veganism can have this a lot, sobriety can have this a lot, you know, a very, very hidden ego agenda of I'm better than you because I don't do that lower consciousness thing. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit. We're all spiritual because we are all spirits. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And whether you do this or whether you do that, you are spiritual. How engaged you are in acknowledging your spirituality is a completely different understanding, completely different thing. But whether you drink or not doesn't make you more or less spiritual. Whether you eat meat or not doesn't make you more or less spiritual. And there's a ton of people who will have a very strong opinion on that. This is not the place to open up that opinion. But this is my opinion because it's my story. Not drinking doesn't make you better than anyone else. But it wasn't about anyone else. It was actually about me. The reason I drank was because I wasn't confident. And in my soul contract, I am here to come out of hiding, express who I really authentically am, and discover and remember my divinity and my self-worth, as we all are. But it's a very key lesson in my soul contract. And alcohol was a mask for me. It was a crutch for me. And it was a way for me to be confident in a very inauthentic way that was completely out of integrity to my soul and to my being. So when I started drinking again, I expected that shame and that judgment to come back. I thought, oh, how am I going to feel about this? Because I used to have nightmares about drinking, feeling drunk, and I'd wake up and I'd be like, thank God, that's just a nightmare. But I have done a huge amount of work. I mean, it never actually ends. We can never be healed. There's no such thing. Healing is just removing the layers that condition us to believe that we are less than. So I've done a lot of layer clearing in the last 5 years. I'm really proud of myself. And for that reason, I decided to drink. For that reason, once I did drink and have carried on drinking, not to the extreme. I don't like being drunk. I'm not every day full of wine, but on social occasions with my boyfriend, with my family, celebrating in a very moderate, calm way. There is no shame. There is no self-judgment. There is no disapproval from coming from within. And there's nothing coming from without either. I'm getting no disapproval, shame, or judgment from the people around me because I surround myself by people who really encourage me to be the best version of myself. And that's not even the important thing. The important thing is I can be who I want to be without alcohol. And I do not need alcohol to numb my emotional stress, because a lot of the reason why we drink is to put a layer, a numbing agent over how we're truly feeling, which is why people drink when they get back from work and they're stressed. It's very deeply patterned behavior. It's why we drink when we're feeling sad. We're like, oh, we'll go out and have a drink to cheer ourselves up. But actually, if we learn to sit in the discomfort for a short while, then further down the road, we are hugely emotionally regulated and balanced in a way that we couldn't even believe possible. So, healing is about self awareness, and it's about sitting in the discomfort of those immediate emotions of grief, fear, and stress. And instead of wanting to numb or distract, scrolling, I do that too, we all do, numbing with anything distracting or avoiding the pain, we actually need to be present with it and know that it's not there to hurt us, it's just there to be felt. And you know that saying, it's like short term pain, long term gain? That is exactly what it is. And so I feel like I have healed to an extent my relationship with alcohol. I feel very safe and very joyful to have a drink. I hold no judgment on myself and I hold no judgment on others. And that's the most important thing, because when we let go of that judgment, we let go of shame. And when we let go of shame, we come back into true acknowledgement of how wonderful and brilliant and loving we truly are. Because shame tries to rub that all out. So I would say if you have a challenging relationship with alcohol and being sober feels like your best option, because God, moderation is hard, do it. I encourage it 1000%. I would also encourage you to look at the reasons why you think the drinking became such a problem and why there's such a disconnection with it, in a very safe, non-judgmental way. I would also say if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, maybe I could have a drink, I've been sober for a bit, maybe I should, I would just spend a lot of time getting really clear on what feels intuitively right for you. Do not follow my actions, because they're not always going to be right for someone else, but they were just 100% right for me. So that's really, really, really important. And just know that there's no right or wrong. Being sober isn't always the right decision. Drinking isn't always the right decision. Moderation isn't always the right decision. There's always a lovely, healthy balance in what we choose to do for ourselves that's going to be completely different from what someone else chooses. And it may be that in a year's time, I think, well, I'd like to step away from alcohol again. And again, that's fine. I haven't failed. I haven't, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think I'm going to leave it there, because I could speak about this a lot, because there's huge, huge themes underneath this. There's self-worth, there's shame, there's judgment, and there's always following your own intuition, which can be distorted, but we're here to learn how to remove the layers distorting that and really come home to ourselves. So I've got a few more videos about emotional awareness and healing. I'll pop them underneath. And until next time, I hope this is helpful in some respect, to know that you're not alone dealing with the complexities of our relationships with food and alcohol and shopping and social media and other people. It's a really normal part of being human. So until next time, I wish you a very, very beautiful and peaceful rest of your day.